I'd like to show you how to make a bead with a Deluxe model gizmo. And I've got a 16 gauge wire, and I put the tail of that into the tail stock so it wouldn't go flopping around. And the other end I put in the chuck. I'm tightening it. And I've got a 20 gauge wire that I'm going to coil on the top of it. What I do is I make a right angle bend, and you can see that there are little slits between the teeth of the chuck. I'm going to put that right angle bend in there. I will start this with my fingers. You can keep going with your fingers if you want, but it's going to be a lot more comfortable if you use this tool. This tool is called a ring clamp. Jewelers use it to grab a hold of rings, and it's got leather jaws. And as you can see, the wire is being guided so nicely through those leather jaws. And I've done this before, and most of the time it works. See how it just feeds itself? Sometimes it's gotten gaps, but we're very lucky this time. And I'm going to leave about 5 inches on the end of that. Now you may wonder how I know that's 5 inches, but we're not going to measure it in case I was wrong. So I snip that off, and I bend that, and I'm going to snip it there and cut it close. I was using a flush cutter for that. Now I've got a chain nose pliers. A chain nose is a pliers that is flat. You can find tools in hardware stores that have serrated edges, but what you want is these chain noses that are flat. And I just kind of squish that a little bit, and you want that rough cutting edge of the wire to be mashed down. This wire is dead soft, which means it's just really, really soft, and so you can manipulate it so nicely. I've got a rod that's 1/4 of an inch thick, and I put that into the chuck, and I'm going to make the first part of this bead with a 1/4 inch rod. And what happens if you don't have enough bare wire on the end, that coil will start slipping down. So I've got it like that. You can cut that and make a cylinder bead, or you can take a thinner rod, put it in the chuck, and what we're going to do is we're going to decrease the diameter of the ends of that bead. And I'll try to hold this in a way so that the camera can pick up how that's working. And then sometimes it's going to slip out like that. And if you want to work it more, you've got to bend that and get it back in there. And then I'll flip it to the other side, and then shove it in there and do that on the other side. And then you can monkey with that, and then if you go back and forth like that, it kind of aligns those coils. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip that. And there we have a bead. Now what I want to show you is how a flush cutters work. A flush cutter is flush on one side and it's a diagonal cut on the other. And if you take a piece of wire and go like that, one of those cuts is going to be flush and the other is going to be diagonal. So that one's flush and there's a little diagonal part to it. So when you're cutting something, the flush part wants to be or needs to be toward your work. Just keep that in mind as you use a flush cutter. And there is our bead.